Welcome back to Trust Your Eyes. I hope you're all doing well. We have a pretty busy show today as we'll go over Patrick Dangerfield and some comments regarding the mid-season trade period. We'll focus on Jacob Weitering's injury that he suffered at Carlton training. The AFL is under the gun. And to finish off, we'll talk about the possible extension that Matthew Nicks may be getting at Adelaide. So let's get into it. About a week ago, Patrick Dangerfield, who is the AFL Players Association president, said he supported the introduction of a mid-season trade period. It comes after the new bargaining agreement signed between the league and players allowed a mid-season trade period to be introduced. So is this a good or bad idea? This is a good idea, and I 100% agree with Patrick Dangerfield on this topic. Now, he said it will probably be introduced next year if it is, which I think is fine. It'd be pretty hard to fit it in right now and get everyone agreed to it only a few months away from the season. But it's good for a couple reasons. Now, if you are against it, I think a key reason why is that you would say that the list management's job is to get a squad of 44 or whatever it is ready for the AFL season. And to an extent, I kind of agree with that, but not for certain positions. I think it's much easier to cover midfielders and smaller players in general. But ruckmen and key forwards and key defenders, they're hard to find good ones anyway, let alone have 2, 3 or even 4 as kind of depth players in your team. And this is where this mid-season trade period could really help out teams that get injuries in those type of positions. And we can go to Port Adelaide is a great example last year. They kind of had Scott Lysette, Finlayson was doing a bit of the ruck work, but they didn't have one. And then we look across to Melbourne, who had too many, and they didn't need Brodie Grundy because he didn't even play down the stretch. So this mid-season trade period probably would have allowed Port Adelaide to get Brodie Grundy at that stage that they would have been thinking, we're a shot to win the premiership here, and a pretty good ruckman in Grundy could help us get to the next level. And there's no doubt they would have tried to trade for him. And sticking with Port Adelaide with their key defence, the same thing. They had big issues there, big holes that they couldn't address because there was no mid-season trade period. And is it a possibility they could have gone to, say, North Melbourne and said, Ben Mackay's probably going to leave. We'll give you 2 first-round picks or a first and second-round pick for him and get him early before he left as a free agent to Essendon. Now, they wouldn't. North Melbourne ended up getting pick 3 for him anyway, so they would have won. But Port Adelaide could have maybe overpaid a little to get Mackay to fill that void, just like they could have done with Grundy. So I think this allows that. It allows for more kind of blockbuster mega moves in the mid-season trade period. Now, these would be more rare. I think it would be backup guys who can't get a game going to an opposition team for maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick. That would probably be the most common trade in this. But I really like it. I like how it can create opportunity for the clubs and the players. I think it can reward everyone, helps teams who have a lot of injuries in certain positions. So I'm on board and I think it is a very good idea. More injury news. Carlton star Jacob Weitering suffered a nasty calf injury during Blues training. There is still no timeline on his future, and all that has been revealed is that it is a high-grade strain. What should be the level of concern right now? Well, it's another star player that's gone down in the pre-season. We don't like to see it. We want all the stars available for round 1, but this pre-season seems worse than others in recent memory. And with Weitering, these high-grade calf strains, I looked it up, did a bit of research on Dr. Google, can be pretty nasty depending on the severity. If he's kind of torn it even a little bit or fully or ruptured it, you can be out for 3 to 4 months and even need surgery. It doesn't seem like he needs surgery because you think the club would have told us if he's going in. So I think we can clear that. But obviously it's on the higher level. So if he's out for 3 to 4 months, which is a big possibility, that's missing the start of the season, if not the first month, kind of month and a half of it. So the level of concern should be pretty high because you cannot replace this guy. He's never made the All-Australian team, but he's made the squad 4 times. He had a slow start last season, but had a pretty big year overall. Won their best and fairest for a second time. He's their best defender by far. You can't replace guys like these who can lock down on key forwards and intercept. So I'd be concerned if I was a Carlton fan. It's not looking good at this stage, and the lack of information is pretty concerning. But up next, the AFL is under the gun. The AFL has been under the gun by a lot of fans and commentators for not including the weights of AFL players in the season guide or record. The league has come out backing the decision, saying it is taking the effort to de-emphasise body weight and counter eating disorders in the sport. I think the starting point with this whole fiasco that's going on is it's really not that big of a deal. I can't remember the last time I looked at the kind of weights or even the heights of AFL players while watching a game and trying to analyse matchups. I'm not even sure the commentators and analysis people on TV even do that, and I don't know many people that do. So overall, I don't think it's a massive issue. And Max Gawn said something really interesting. He spoke about it recently, about his experience and kind of what he knows being in an AFL club. And he was saying his weight didn't change for a while or something around that. So, and I kind of knew this, that these height and weight measurements and other things that come out of the clubs aren't really that accurate. I wouldn't believe them. I'd take all of them with a kind of pinch of salt because they're not officially done by the AFL. It's not like all the registered AFL players go to a centre and get measured in all those type of things. So again, it's just not even that accurate to start with, and it's not that big of a deal. I get what the AFL is doing with the eating disorders. I'm sure a lot of professional athletes and those in the AFL who need to try to get better at running and have to lose weight and do things like that probably take extreme measures trying to do so, maybe starving themselves and doing things like that, which just isn't healthy for you, at all. And then the part of the AFL, their kind of statement and reasoning, the de-emphasis of body weight, I don't get it at all. You are a professional athlete after all. You should try and stay in pretty good condition just so you can actually play. We've seen players struggle with it before. The most notable one is Jake Stringer, and the only reason he gets attention is because when he is fit, he's a top player in the competition, but his potential has never really been reached because of his weight issues. And we've seen last year he wasn't playing well, and he saw his body. He was definitely carrying extra weight. So I don't get that portion of what the AFL is really saying. So overall, this is just a weird thing. I kind of get why the AFL is doing it, but also don't. I kind of 50-50 with them. It's not that big of a deal to me. I'm not going to boycott the AFL or do anything stupid or rant about it. It is just a weird thing, and we'll see if the AFL change it back. It doesn't seem like they will, but maybe if there's enough pressure by the community, they will. We'll move on to the last segment and talk about Matthew Nicks and his time at Adelaide. Adelaide Crows coach Matthew Nicks is out of contract this season. SEN had a discussion surrounding the positives and negatives of re-signing Nicks either now or early in the season. So should the Crows bite the bullet and re-sign Nicks early this year? Adelaide should not re-sign Matthew Nicks right now or early in the season unless he gets on some kind of unbelievable or record-setting run like 10-0 or something like that. There's a few reasons why. It's his 5th year, so it's kind of make or break year for a lot of coaches. It's gone pretty quick. I didn't even realise he was into his 5th year. His overall record isn't great. 29 wins and 54 losses. It's a win percentage of 39.94%. That is not very good. That's well in the bottom half of all AFL coaches. They have been competitive over that time. I'll give him that. They have always taken it up most of the time to the good teams. They've always had a few bad losses here and there. We saw that last year. They were unlucky and they probably should have played finals. But they still lost a lot of games against sides like Essendon, the Western Bulldogs, GWS early in round 1 when they had a big lead. And there's a few things on field that Nicks and his staff haven't quite figured out. The midfield's one of them. They have made great moves from Laird and Dawson, who were both defenders when Nicks got there at various stages. But besides that, they haven't figured out the rest. Sam Berry fell out of favour last year a lot. Matt Crouch has been in and out. He was in at the back end of last year. And same with Ben Keys. He's been played in a lot of other roles. It's probably more of a utility than a permanent on-baller. And their drafting hasn't been great. A lot of their high picks. Chase Jones is probably a role player and a wing. He's pretty good, but he was a very high pick. Ned McHenry's struggled. They lost Fisher Mackesy as well. So their drafting, it's not Nick's responsibility per se, but it has been under him that these players, a lot of their high picks have kind of gone bust. But their recruiting has been good. Rankin and Dawson really have been spectacular. So that's been a good part of it. It's his 5th year, defining season. I'm pretty excited to see where Adelaide can go. I've got them definitely in the top 8, maybe challenging for a top 4, especially if they win majority of their home games. So if they can fix up their record on the road, they'll be pretty good next year. But I will not sign Matthew Nixon. I'd keep the pressure on the whole club, on him, his staff, and the players to get off to a good start. Thanks for watching another edition of Trust Your Eyes. It's been 6 episodes already. I've enjoyed doing it a lot. I hope a lot of you guys who watch it have enjoyed it as well. So thanks, and I'll see you very soon.